A very crucial aspect of cost is the flexible cost, which is basically the fuel cost, which leads to transportation.
So while your argument that the volume scaling can bring profits is reasonable, I think that thinking from the perspective that Kirana's
was very good when it was backed by evidences. Like you gave the example of Zepto, right? And then you gave the example of Blinkit.
I just mentioned create the boundaries, so lay the fencing. Now, second thing that we need to be sure of, once that is established, your opening also has to be along with a greeting. All right, none of y'all introduced yourself, none of y'all greeted or acknowledged your peers.
Long-term sustainability is there. And the second most thing, its ability to be fitted across regions. This particular model could be easily fitted to any place, any region. And the third most important thing, I think the most important part of
5 to 10 minutes to think about it. We'll take a small pause so that you can think about it, jot down the points, and then we'll start. So once we say start, then anybody of you can start with it. ठीक है? And कोशिश करेंगे कि एक दूसरे को overpower नहीं करेंगे. ठीक है? We'll have enough amount of time. इतना टाइम हम लोग रखेंगे, इतना लंबा रखेंगे कि सबको अपनी बात कहने का मौका मिलेगा. Right? So take your time, think of the point, let the other person complete it. The idea is that we come up with a collaborative decision together, rather than just keep fighting and there is no conclusion at the end. Okay? So the topic is the very recent one. Is the quick commerce model sustainable or exploitative? All right, I guess then we can start, guys. 20 minutes.
Topic by saying that as of now it looks that quick commerce is on the road for exploitation. It doesn't look sustainable as of now. The reason being is that they are backed by VCs, right? They are backed by heavy amounts of money and they are spending hefty on marketing as well. Second point I would like to point out is they are pushing Kiranas out of business, and the reason they are doing it is because they are compromising on margins. So they are justifying that the amount of orders that they are getting is somewhere outpowering the compromise on margins, which I don't think is sustainable in the long run, because not every time and every day the frequency of orders would be this high. I would like anyone to contribute for this topic further.
I would like to use 3 dimensions to elaborate it much better. Firstly, we can see it from 3 angles. One is environmental, then social, and then on governance basis. Yes, covered the governance aspect of it. Now let's look on the social aspect of it. Firstly, and the foremost was the recent issue about it is regarding gig worker rights, regarding their minimum wage, accident coverage insurance plans, and job security. Now, what comes crucial in job security is whether the gig worker is spending more than a period of 1 year into his job. In case he is not eligible for those job security rights. But minimum wage and accident coverage insurance plans are very crucial for their safety and also their overall sustainability. So this is one aspect I would like to contribute.
I would like to add to this that I think that the idea of quick commerce itself is sustainable, in my opinion, and I believe that for that to happen, like Yash pointed out, they're using margins to push out Kiranas. Instead of that, they can just include Kiranas into their ecosystem as well. Like they operate on dark stores currently, right? Mm-hmm. So Kiranas can be a hub for even more fragmented pieces of dark stores, and maybe that business model can be scaled up, and through that manner quick commerce can be sustainable. As far as any company is concerned, profit is a priority, and I definitely believe that making gig economy very labor coded would slash those margins into hell, and quick commerce will not be able to survive that sort of environment. So I think that the contract based system that it is currently employing, though it is a necessary evil for that company to be able to make some sort of margin and profit. I do believe that they should be more transparent with their charges that they are leaving on the customers themselves, instead of using dark patterns or hidden charges. If they are just upfront about it, I believe that the growing urban market and the population increase that is happening in cities, people will be needing these sort of services more and more. And they will be willing to pay for that convenience if the companies are transparent about it. So if quick commerce is able to implement these changes into their business models successfully, I definitely believe that they'll become sustainable and inseparable part of our lives.
A very crucial aspect of cost is the flexible cost, which is basically the fuel cost, which leads to transportation from the product from the store to the consumer. If we are including the kirana stores into this business, then the profit which comes through volume would deplete, because the profit which comes from one dark store would be distributed among 10 kiranas, and eventually after we take into the per share view, even the kiranas would not make enough margins out of it. Since the company securing the product directly from the manufacturing company, they can put some margin for themselves, as well as add that to the fuel cost and make some profits over time. So adding the kirana stores to this business model would disrupt the entire supply chain and make all the players suffer.
I want to add to that point that a lot of quick commerce companies do not really own the dark stores themselves. They use the local parties, individuals, corporations, and trusts or whatever, which is owning that dark store. It is not completely really owned by the quick commerce companies in many cases. So while your argument that volume scaling can bring profits is reasonable, I think that thinking from the perspective that kiranas are the last stop is not reasonable in this aspect, because from my point of view, I'm thinking them more as a supplier or like as the middleman for that point of transportation. And as far as distribution is concerned, kirana stores get their distribution from other places anyways. So I don't think it is going to chip away the other volumes. It is going to instead include those volumes in the overall market of the quick commerce that it is currently holding.
I too believe what Neil said, that it's sustainable in the long term, because I would like to view this particular field from a macroeconomic view, wherein I would add 3 points that India has a large population and 35% of its is youth. So the demand for such services is very high. So long term sustainability is there. And the second most thing, its ability to be fitted across regions. This particular model could be easily fitted to any place, any region. And the third most important thing, I think the most important part of this quick commerce model is the gig workers, actually, the delivery partners, the people. And in these times of economic unemployment, which is at not a all-time high, but still it's considerably high at 5%, I think it provides sufficient amount of employment to these workers also. Thus, it's all not just a sustainable model, but it's also a necessity model for now.
Adding on to what my colleague just said, giving a positive outlook to this entire quick commerce model, I believe that with the rising urbanization and the rising people, the young students and the working students, the working professionals which are currently in the metropolitan cities or the tier 2 cities, the convenience that quick commerce is currently providing, especially to the working professionals, giving my personal touch to this, is the idea of coming back from the office and then having the safest option of getting something just as quickly as possible. To have, maybe if you forgot something, like the students that we have currently. If we talk about the school times, if we talk of get back to when we were in school and we forgot some, let's say, stationery, or we forgot something, it was difficult to get it at that moment, maybe at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. But right now it's pretty convenient for the students, for the working professionals to get what they want anytime, so that they don't affect the outcome or the requirement that they have.
So I would like to add on to that, which you mentioned, right, that in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, it might not be sustainable. Now, I think one of the key things which had made this e-commerce viable in India specifically, if you look at the US or any other developed country, it hasn't been very popular over there. And that's because there is a very wide income inequality in India. Many people are willing to pay higher margins even for the convenience, and some people are willing to work for that low margins and still provide that service to those people. So I think that as long as the gap exists in the Indian economy, where we have people working for very less wages as well as people working at very high wages, I think until that gap is there, the model is sustainable.
You just mentioned the question of why we need to provide the job security. We need to see it from two different perspectives. One from the government perspective. The government is not able to produce the number of jobs which are required for the number of population. At the same time, the corporates are able to do this through these models. So I don't think the question is actually why we need to provide job security, and the point at which you mentioned is this is just a temporary solution. May be true, but to some extent. But I think many of those gig workers who are actually working in this commerce model are actually dependent on this as the main income, which I believe.
I think the level of unemployment in this country has rose over time. Like in past 5 to 6 years, it has rose quite well. And for someone who is unemployed, the opportunity to work as a gig worker is flexible, and there are no certain qualifications required for it. So someone who comes from that background where there is financial dependence on family and he has to provide for the family, it provides a good opportunity for them to start the work. So that is a good point that quick commerce is addressing right now.
Adding on to it, we have talked about the cities, and we are seeing the rural areas over there, and the workers over there are more exploited than the gig workers. Actually, they are not having the work over there. They are just manipulated and exploited. On the other hand, in gig workers, they are actually having a job, a full day job. So they can earn for their family and they can provide them. Not on the rural basis that they are given a job on one day and another day they are not having a job.
So I have a different point of view from what Aditya said. Not everyone have EV right now because it's quite expensive. So a lot of people are using, vehicles that are used that are fueled by petrols, and that causes pollution. So I don't think that it's contributing anything to the environment.
I guess I would like to draw everyone to the main topic here. We are talking mostly about gig workers here and not about the quick com model. I feel we need to divert our attention to the quick com model. The thing that everyone is pointing about is gigs, right? I feel you are saying it's providing sustainable job and steady income for some of them. And we have some contrary opinion over that as well, that the economy is not sustainable because they are not providing job securities, as my fellow mate mentioned. Another reason I would just talk about on the broad level of the quick com perspective is that my fellow mate also mentioned about that it creates a convenience, right? Wherein people are able to pay for convenience. We would also relate it to our experience of ordering. Let's say we have all ordered from quick commerce here. Basically, so we are getting the same price as what a Kirana store is offering, right? With the exact same convenience. Let's say you said about the stationery, order a book or a scale. We get at the exact same price or cheaper, not more, with the gig worker. So the quick com model has to handle all of these costs as well. The gig model, the petrol, the everything. And this is where I feel the margins are compromised on a broader scale. And I would just, maybe we have a minute or so, we could just provide our concluding points on the same.
Players who are into the quick commerce and delivery space. So they're generating lakhs and crores in market cap and enterprise value over the course of the years, and they're contributing to the GDP eventually, even if it's just swapping hands, even if the money is swapping hands. So it would be not right to say that there is no economic value generated, because even though there are some people who are at a disadvantage, but there are some people who are benefiting from it. There are multiple stakeholders in a company. There are not just gig workers, there are employees, there are service staff, and all of them are involved in it. So to label this as exploitative would be to deplete the entire enterprise value of all these stakeholders, including the government as well as the customers. So on a broader point, we could say that quick commerce maybe needs more reforms and more understanding between different stakeholders. But it is sustainable if appropriate measures are taken in the short run as well as in the long run.
Alright guys, so final conclusion, we'll go to Rachit and then Ayan and everybody else after that. No? So Rachit, you want to speak?
Yes, sir. In India, the biggest market force in India is the Indian consumers, and quick commerce definitely adds a lot of value for the consumers, and they are incentivized to use it in different income stratas and in different tier cities. In tier 1 cities, people might value the quick part of the commerce more. In tier 2 and tier 3 cities, many quick commerce companies are able to apply discounts which are beyond what Kirana stores can provide. It is definitely certain points of quick commerce are right now exploitative, but in the long term, it will definitely prove sustainable.
So adding to what my previous, Aditya said, is contributing to the GDP another way, because people are ordering goods, so we can know that what is required, which goods have better demand. So it also affecting the manufacturing industry. They can manufacture goods which are in great demand, and is contributing like that also.
Close Karan. Alright. You wish to say something? Neil? Yeah, conclude.
So I just want to conclude this by saying that I think we all can agree on the fact that quick commerce has its flaws, and it is currently exploitable at certain aspects, but it definitely has the potential to be sustainable in the long term if right steps are taken and good reforms are introduced in place. Maybe some company can lead by example. Shout out to whoever knows what I'm talking about. So I hope these changes do take place. I hope that all the interests of stakeholders are taken into account. And I hope that whatever happens with quick commerce is for the better. Thank you.
Nobody of you mentioned any statistical data. You also mentioned about, the strike. Even I knew that nobody of you would be knowing the estimated value of this particular industry, right? Or maybe the projections we have of quick commerce, right?
Processing ability
right.
around 1.8 trillion.
Nobody mentioned that number, right? I thought that, okay, if you're not mentioning this number, at least when you will mention the strike, you will at least tell how many days strike it was, right? Or how long it has been impacting us. There were various angles that were touched, right? Various, and too many backgrounds to it, right? One was that you will be able to understand the demand trend. One was that it is something which is the call of the hour, because India still at 10 or after 11 is not safe in many parts, and at that time you need it, right? Because you cannot just order and wait for 2 to 3 days. Sometimes there are things which you need, right, at even that point of time, correct? You touched that angle, but that was just left open. Nobody took that further, right? And only one person, I would say Aditya, was doing it nice to give a structure to the entire GD, right? When you opened up, I guess the opening was done by you, Yash, right? When you opened up, you put in 3 to 4 lines, and they were all different from each other, right? You opened up 3 to 4 angles together. You talked about the kiranas, right? You talked about, I guess, multiple, there. You talked about so many unstructured problems, right? And then nobody can pick up from there, right? In fact, what he did was, just after you, I guess, it came to Aditya.
Yes.
And Aditya structured it into 3 broader zones: environmental, governance, and social. Now, it depends upon ki after he opens it up, he talks about one aspect and somebody puts in the second aspect, then third goes into the third aspect, but it did not happen. After he, brought a structure to the debate, then again, when we went to the third person, it went off. Again, he tried to bring down the conversation back onto the track. Okay, we have talked about the social cause of it, we have talked about the government cause of it, and then let's talk about the environmental cause. Then he brought in EV, then countered that not all are EV, there are some still which are working on fuel, so contributing to the AQ or whatever you can say. right? Nobody talked about the death tolls which we have seen because of this, right? When you are putting in then time limits, you have talked about it, but when you are trying to put in, all the people who were trying to put in that it is exploitative, you have to use that little harsh language to put a, a weight to your particular argument, that how many death tolls that have been taken place in near time. So you are just going or diving into a topic and you are leaving it little open, I would say. Some areas you did close, right? There were a few areas which you did close, specifically on the dark stores, and now we have a store upcoming. And then you talked about your second argument was very good when it was backed by evidences. Like you gave the example of Zepto, right? And then you gave the example of Blinkit, and you quoted what he said. That was nice, right? So whenever you are mentioning a point, wait and take your time, back it up by examples, rather than open it up and lay 3 to 4 points without any evidences. So these evidences become very important. Okay, if you did not know the numbers, even if the approximate numbers, fine, right? But if you have some evidences, it works in your favor, in unmatchable way, right? So I guess that's it for the overall. Then we'll come from person to person once ma'am brief you about the overall.
Okay, so I believe when you start a GD, the person who initiates has a responsibility, one, to define the topic and then to direct the conversation. So Yash, when you started, the keywords, and this is applicable for any and all GDs, the moment you understand the topic, pick up the keywords. If you're opening the conversation, define those keywords. In this case, your keywords were sustainability, exploitative, and what was your scope? Quick commerce. So that defining this is basically for all on the group to understand what is the range that we need to. So what you're doing is you're laying a barrier within which of you basically fencing the entire conversation, laying the scope within which this entire GD is going to happen. All right. So anybody who's unclear would now get clarity that this is the scope within which I have to remain. So for an opener, that is a key responsibility you need to play. All right. A lot of children make mistakes like we just did right now. The first couple of conversations that we have are opinion based. All right. Which completely allows you to derail the topic. All right. When you make it personal, when you make it opinionated based on your interaction with quick commerce or your understanding of what is exploitative, you are moving away from the topic completely, and it will only take 1 or 2 more such opinions to completely get off topic, which is wasting the real time that you have. All right, here time is your asset. You cannot waste it. So openings must be, 1, definitive, and I just mentioned create the boundaries. So lay the fencing. Now, second thing that we need to be sure of, once that is established, your opening also has to be along with a greeting. All right, none of y'all introduced yourself, none of y'all greeted or acknowledged your peers. All right. So when how did you? I disagree with you. That's not greeting. All right. So this is basically a miniature professional setup created for you to understand how you're going to play out in your workspace. All right. So if you disagree with somebody, you say EVs. They're not all EVs. They are petrol as well. I'm sure that they're moving towards EVs, but there's still a large chunk of petrol vehicles that are still operational in the market. All right. Although that would be the goal eventually, but currently we're still not there. That would be a professional approach to addressing what he said. However, that is the end game. That is the goal. All right. So again, when you said, you mentioned something, Neil,
Yes.
you said a shout out to all those.
I remember. I forgot that we were in GD. I just saw the camera and I was like, maybe this is a good opportunity,
To what? Become a star?
No. To actually put forward that opinion, because.
What was the opinion? Shout out to all those who understand what I'm talking about.
No. I wanted to say that the points that I made about it being currently exploitative and how it can be made sustainable. the points that are made, like including kiranas and not following the dark patterns that are happening. So I wanted to include that, maybe shout out to the companies so that they can actually, see
So
this.
the
And
companies are watching this GDPI.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that is what I'm saying.
You are sitting over here,
Yeah.
you are still in the formal situation, right?
In that moment, I definitely accept my mistake for that. Yeah.
So that you don't
Yeah.
get swayed in the emotion and get carried away and
Yeah.
think you're being cool, but then actually you're taking away from your own
Yeah.
Basically,
presentation.
control your emotions, right?
Correct.
You are into a formal situation, not the casual one.
Yes.
Maybe, once you are done with all these things, you go out, tell to your fellow mates, not to the panelists.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So also when you guys address or link your conversation with somebody else's conversation, how do you take that forward? What should be your language when you take that forward?
Based on whether we are contradicting the argument.
It doesn't matter. What's your start? As my, or according to, or as he said. These are the gestures I saw on the table today.
Yes.
Alright, you look at the name tag and you go calling. Here's what he said.
Maybe start with what I feel. Like I would like to agree with.
No,
what
but then
Just-
you have to
just don't
acknowledge the
gesture.
other person's opinion. If you're going to link your conversation with somebody else's conversation,
Yeah.
you've got to say, if I understand correctly, this is what you say. But I believe there's another perspective or another way of looking at this scenario as well. I think this aspect is missing in the conversation. So either which ways, when you're talking, you've got to establish connect. Let's say you're having a conversation that is absolutely disconnected. इसने social angle की बात करी, आपने legal angle की बात करनी है. How do you make that switch? Do you walk in and say, I have another point. I want to talk about legal. That's not how you do it. You say, we've discussed the social aspect of it, but I believe we can add more value to this conversation by also adding on to the legal aspect of the conversation. That you basically have to make a smooth transition in this conversation. You can't say, here I am, here's my opinion. I'm done with saying, okay, hands down. Done. Next person's asking for the mic. Alright, so this has to be a very coherent conversation where it has to. Why is it a group discussion? Why is it not a VAT? Why is it not your individual opinion? Because you're supposed to come together as a group and collaborate and bring out your thought processes. Alright? Like Sir said, I really appreciate the fact that he gave structure. What I appreciate about what you did later was bring the team back onto the topic. You said, I believe we're swaying away. Let's come back to the conversation. Now, two things. Gatekeeper is what you played. Alright, you told them there's a minute left. Despite which we had multiple people wanting to get into the conversation, adding more points instead of now submitting. Alright, which is what is, it's not just his responsibility. He made it out loud. It should have been on your minds all the time. Ki itna minute bacha hai. That means whatever I say now has to be rounding up whatever has been presented, not laying out more facts to discuss.
Specifically, given that we had given you ample of time, that there were moments there was just sudden silence, right? Nobody was talking about.
Yes, sir.
Rajit, I believe you walked into the conversation very late.
Rachit walked in very late, Rahul walked in very late, Ayan walked in very late, Robin walked in very late, and very few points you added, right? Although your point was very valid, right? Your point was like it is better for the day, it is at least better than the daily wage workers, right? But again, that is comparative study. That is another aspect. We are talking about, whether this particular model is sustainable or exploitative, right?
Shambhavi, you also made a point that was only your personal opinion. मेरे लिए quick commerce works because मेरा personal opinion. You said it with a lot of cheer and thing, but you know that's not really adding much on the table here. Cheerful personality.
Specifically with the context that he is late.
Correct.
Right.
So your add-on, you just wanted to step and say something and be heard, but there wasn't really much you added on the table here, which is not what is expected of you. You want to throw in a lot more in terms of perspectives, in terms of angles in discussion. If not, okay, facts and figures. What do you do when you don't have facts and figures?
Estimate, maybe. Closest estimate.
Listen to the person.
Listen to कोई facts and
Expand
figures
on
बोल ही नहीं
nobody
रहा है,
है।
किसी के पास है नहीं तो क्या करोगे?
Is guesstimate an answer?
I had no idea about the attrition numbers. I know it was close to 50% attrition in the
आपने
first 6
बोला
months.
तभी मेरे को मन किया एक बार चेक करो कि फेक.
But yeah, actually I read that. the attrition numbers are very
Unemployment
high.
5%.
हाँ, you also both the statements, but unemployment किसकी?
Unemployment ratio.
Quick commerce में
Entire India, which I said कि unemployment ratio इतना high है कि
5%.
5.3.
It's ahead of that number.
Ma'am, official figure is around 5%.
Yeah, it's around 5. Like, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So essentially, I wasn't sitting here with tech to cross check, but your panelists will. All right. So that is something that you got to be very
mentioning the number, you have to be little sure of. If you are not sure of, let us say less than 10, you can say less than 8, you can say, right?
Approximate.
Approximate.
Correct.
Give it a range, and that to a little broader range, so that you are not at least wrong.
Correct. अगर range अगर एकदम off the hook है कि पता ही नहीं अंदाजा नहीं है, but you have an indication of the trend. To make a trend based statement. All right. So increasing है, decreasing है, low है, high है, these words are still valid. All right. If you want to steer clear from quants. All right. So you get away from that. No. All right. So that is another point that I would want to highlight. Now, a lot of you ended up playing a lot of conversations around gig workers. All right, which is definitely part of what you're conversing here, but you had to connect it to exploitative. You kept saying इनकी need है, tier 2, tier 3, इनकी need पे conversation नहीं हो रहा, कितना ये quick commerce exploit कर रहे हैं इनको, उस पे हो रहा है ना. So the fact that they need it is only a tiny start. How much of that need is being exploited by quick com is what you had to pester us.
Like if I am supporting the point that this model is sustainable for them, then why would I add a point that it's pestering also?
Because
like
that is a
myself.
no, sustainability is not a different point. It's not collaborative. Exploit करते हुए sustainable हो सकता है ना?
Yeah.
Why does
my
it have
point
to
of
be
view, I am
The idea is I understand your point. You are on the pro side of
Yes.
it, right? Still, it does not mean that you have to be very binary about it, right? You can say that, okay, right now I understand this might be little exploitative, but yes, we have to figure out some reforms. The government need to step in, make some strategies so that this becomes, not exploitative to these guys, gig workers. And I'm sure it definitely will take place. So the model is yet sustainable. What do you mean by sustainability? That it will sustain, go for longer runs. Yes, it is a new thing, right? Very recent phenomena. 10 years back, there was nothing like that. So of course, any new thing when it comes, it takes time to adapt. There are some challenges which we need to overcome, right? So your conclusion should have been on these grounds only, because this is not something like is this good or bad and you have to choose this, right? This is something which is the call of the hour. Right, and it has its own benefits, contribution to the development of the society as well. Yes, there are some areas where we need to work, and then in that area, one of them is the exploitation. We should figure it out. The conclusion has to be in this particular way. There was an easy conclusion to this particular topic, right? And I would say when he was the first one to bring in the structure, we would have to talk in that structure so that the fence which ma'am is talking about is always created and is there.
But sir, what if we want to talk something beyond that structure? He gave environmental, government, and social, right?
Economic.
Let that fill in. Let the evidences back, and then you can just throw the light, like ma'am said. Okay, I agree with all these things, but I would like to draw the attention of the entire group towards one another thing which we have missed. And if now it is a valid thing, you will get the extra point for that. Your time will come. You will get the chance. Now, what happened is we have, after all this discussion, n number of points.
Yes.
But now we don't know what these points have to be put under it, right? So there is no section where I can put in that there are these points, this points, and we do not have any conclusion drawn for each and every aspect. Correct? So when he has picked up, let us say he talked about the 3 aspects and started with the governance. 2, 3 evidences, those who have written those points, put in there. Next person, let's go ahead with the social one. 3 points, done and dusted. Third person went into the environment, all those electric vehicles, petrol pumps, and whatever you were talking about, closed, bring in the 4th point.
Okay.
Right, and you will need that time. Otherwise, there are multiple things which you repeated.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I guess that happened because few of you had no points to speak about, so you just heard from each other, and then you thought that okay, I should replicate this. At least it should be something which I spoke to the panel, right? Now this is also the this is also your duty, that if in your group there are 4 or 5 people who have not got the topic or who could not understand what the topic actually is, then that is why the opener come into the picture. He clearly explains the topic such that everybody in the group can contribute. So if everybody in the group can contribute, it is very good for you. We have seen the entire group getting selected, we have seen the entire group getting rejected. right? So don't be that group where just, half of the conversation is led by 3 people or 2 people.